We live in a cell phone society. I don't think enough research has been done into the negative effects.
When I came to hear that my mom got cancer because of radiation, it was a shock.
At the moment, we do not enforce any regulatory requirements with regards to cell phone towers and installations.
I moved into this complex in September '97. I was basically running my business from home. I spent basically 24 hours at home with my daughter. The only time I got out of my place was when I took her to school, or, at the time, after a few tests, it was discovered that I was actually, I've got a thyroid cancer. My thyroid is full of lumps, and basically this radiation had actually impaired my health severely.
Unless you're planning on taking up subsistence farming in the rural Free State, avoiding electromagnetic radiation is almost impossible these days. Even total isolation would prove largely futile. We are literally swimming in an ocean of electromagnetic radiation, with our electrical appliances, power lines, and most significantly, wireless internet devices, cell phones, and cell phone towers all producing waves. The science seems to be divided on this, with some reports suggesting significant health impacts, while others say that the effect is so minimal that we really shouldn't be worried. I think we need to go on a mission to see if we can't find out more. And first, we need to find out, what is electromagnetic radiation anyway? During the second half of the 20th century, the world underwent an electromagnetic revolution, with many new frequencies being used for radio and TV broadcasting, radar, mobile phones, and for a variety of wireless devices. These electromagnetic frequencies surround and bombard us. Although we cannot see, touch, or feel them, they are with us every day, everywhere we go, and we depend on them for everything. Even our bodies function on electromagnetic frequencies. Without them, the world we know could not exist. There are a variety of waves: gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light waves, infrared waves, microwaves, to radio waves, which can measure longer than a mountain range. This spectrum is the foundation for the information age and of our modern world. Literally, as you are sitting in your living room right now watching TV, not only are there visible light waves striking your eyes, but also radio waves transmitting from a nearby station, and microwaves carrying cell phone calls and text messages, and waves from your neighbor's Wi-Fi and GPS units in the cars driving by. There is a chaotic assortment of all the waves passing through you and your room right now. The World Health Organization and the Council of Europe have recently published quite controversial reports regarding EMR and its health impacts. In fact, the WHO report went as far as saying it may be carcinogenic and warned caution. This has meant that some countries have tightened their legislation around the erection of cell phone towers and exposure to EMR, whereas other countries, South Africa included, still don't have any such legislation, which means that a company can erect a tower in your neighborhood or near your child's school without requiring any consultation or public participation.
When I realized that the radiation was causing a serious health problem, I then contacted Vodacom as well. My request was, please remove that Vodacom tower. This is what has happened to me, and it's affecting many other people as well. In 2009, January, there was 2 gentlemen that came out to actually measure the radiation. They then told me to wait for a week. They will actually send a report. They sent an email, and just to actually confirm, yes, there is radiation. All they could say that it was within safe levels. I don't believe it's safe, because at the end of the day, you're basically staying 24 hours in your unit exposed to radiation, which is unacceptable. How much radiation is safe for human consumption?
What informs the Department of Health to set guidelines at a certain level?
We recommend compliance with the guidelines that were published by the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, ICNIRP.
This is a new sort of exposure we are facing, especially when it comes to cell phone masts and the cell phone itself, and later on also DCT telephones and Wi-Fi. If you look at the last decision of WHO, which judged radio frequency radiation as a possible carcinogen, our strategy to protect public health had been shown to be right.
What is an environmental impact assessment, and why is it important?
It's a legal requirement in terms of environmental legislation where particular types of developments have to be assessed, also involving the community.
The South African government has recently passed legislation allowing cell phone towers to be erected without environmental impact assessments. What are your views on that?
Oh, I think it's the decision for the wrong time. Maybe because now we know a lot more about electromagnetic radiation from antennas.
At the moment, we do not enforce any regulatory requirements with regards to cell phone towers and installations. We're not really involved in the whole EIA process. That is driven from the environment side.
So what are the exposure levels in Salzburg at the moment as compared to the rest of the world?
In Salzburg, the exposures might be lower than in other countries. Operators are aware that the city of Salzburg would like to see exposure reduction.
I don't really know what guidelines were put into place in Salzburg, except that they were much lower for some reason. I don't know what the reason is. It could not be health based on scientific evidence.
I went to the Holistic Medical Center. He's a homeopath as well as a GP. And he does believe as well that radiation does affect you in some way. However, as you know, in the medical field, they wouldn't actually confirm something as well. They always beat around the bush. I believe this radiation had actually impaired my health severely. And immediately then I had to actually just move a few things and go over to my mum. And it was amazing, the difference.
I'm glad she's living with me. She has improved a lot. And I wouldn't like to go back to her own house to stay there.
After playing rugby one day, 2 science students at a prestigious local school noticed the cell phone tower in their school grounds and wondered what potential health effects it could cause. With the help of Tracy Lee Dorney from the Electromagnetic Radiation Research Foundation, the students' power of curiosity and desire for the truth led them to investigate the matter in a school project. We're standing right outside one of the schools that was part of the study. Just tell us a little bit about that research.
Well, it was an excellent project done considering the age of the children. They actually took the research information. All we actually did was give them a questionnaire with symptoms that would pretty much epitomize microwave sickness. And they went off with that and took an engineer with a RF field meter to take readings at 3 different schools. When they came back with some of the questionnaires, we were quite alarmed at how many of the symptoms the pupils were experiencing.
And what were the findings?
We were concerned about the results, especially in one of the schools where some of the children had up to 9 symptoms.
Unfortunately, we were not given permission to speak with the boys who conducted the survey, so we decided to speak to students from another school to find out what they thought about the subject.
It's kind of weird to think that all this can happen with like something that's like so precious to me, because I love my phone and it's always with me, and to think like there's like a tower so close to school and like it's bad.
I think that other kids should be worried about this because of cancers and diseases and things that we can get from radiation.
I also watched a movie about cancer, and this child who got it because, well, the parents claimed that he got it from the tower that was close to their house. And they tried to sue the company, but they couldn't.
When I was growing up, we weren't exposed to these levels of radiation. And it concerns me that my child will be, because not only household appliances, but these base stations are emitting the radiation continually. There hasn't been a proven link, but for me, I feel that until it's innocent, then it should still be considered as guilty.
These towers seem to be so often on private land like schools. Would it not be possible to limit them to municipal sites or maybe put them up on high ridges away from where people live?
The problem with radio technology is that it's as much a coverage issue as interference. So the higher the site is, the more interference it causes, and that means then you have other issues in terms of network quality and so on, because radio technology works on reuse of the same spectrum across the whole country. I mean, so you can't have a very high site just transmitting, because then in that whole area you can't reuse that spectrum and you lose capacity. And in a lot of cases, yes, we can do that, especially in rural areas, because there's not a lot of demand, but in the urban areas you have to bring it a lot closer to where the actual usages.
Cell phone masts are not just controversial from a health point of view, it's also controversial from the point of view of aesthetics in an area. You can imagine if you had to erect a cell phone mast right next to a statue of Nelson Mandela, you know, there's an issue that people might feel strongly about. There's an economic issue that the value of properties in an area that might be affected, and it's also from a zoning point of view, it's controversial whether that is actually a business zoning or whether it should be a residential zoning.
Every close neighbor should be concerned about the possibility that there is a certain amount of radiation. And I think it's wise to have a system on the government level, but also on the local level, in order to know what's going on and in order to know the exposure levels.
It's the normal citizen in the street that's being affected. And I don't believe that government is doing enough to actually protect citizens of the country against the effects of radiation.
I do think there are people who, who have that view, but I think the whole thing again is we try and stay very objective and really use science and the research and all the literature that's available. I think it's very much about what the science and research shows, and that's what's very important for us to do.
We would want local authorities not to go off on a tangent of their own for whatever reasons. So we would like local authorities to remain within the ambit of the recommendations of the National Department of Health.
What we can see internationally is a growing body of scientific reports, a growing body of literature that raises these health concerns. It's still not conclusive. Having said that, it shows that there's a public debate taking place in the rest of the world, which we can't close down in South Africa. And that's why I truly regret the removal of EIAs for cell phone masts and transmitters.
The electromagnetic revolution has changed our world in many ways for the better, but it may also have come at a price, that of our health and the health of our children. We can't stop EM signals from infiltrating our lives, but we can certainly take steps to limit our exposure to them. Remember that the capacity that each one of us has to impact change is limitless. So ask yourself, if this technology is affecting you negatively, what action are you taking?